Welcome to the May 23rd meeting of the Westford Select Board. We're going to start as we always do with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Chris.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We're going to start off tonight's open forum with a celebration of two of our first responder groups. Chief, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Thank you, members of the board. Andrea, thank you for your comments 2 weeks ago when this first came out, and I also appreciate the opportunity to recognize the detectives that were involved in the case that was referenced. If I can, I'm just going to read a brief summary, and I'd like to recognize the work of our detectives here in town. So back on February 2nd of 2019, the Westford Police Department received a call for a body that was found off the side of the road of Providence Road that was found by a nearby resident that was walking their dog. It caused a sensation within town. It was an absolutely tragic event. The young lady had no identification on her person, and there wasn't a lot of evidence to work with. But after a short time, we were able to work with the medical examiner's office and identify the young lady as Melissa Mestry. And through further work of the detectives, they were able to identify Daniel Paris as the one that was responsible for leaving Miss Mestry on the side of the road and taking her belongings and actually destroying them by throwing them off a bridge out in Western Mass on the way back to his home. So as part of this investigation and the exceptional work of the officers involved, I would just like to recognize Captain James Pelican, Detective Sergeant Dennis Rogers, Sergeant Dave O'Hearn, and Detective Matt Furlong, who were working in the Special Services Division at the time. Those were our detectives back in 2019. They were able to compile a tremendous amount of information to be able to identify Mr. Paris as the primary suspect. They used mobile phone data, social media, GPS data, and lots of other electronic data, and they actually presented the information that we gathered to the Middlesex DA's office, one of their special prosecutors, in a PowerPoint presentation, because we felt we had enough to clearly identify this individual. So after months of work, they were able to put together this very compelling PowerPoint presentation. And we got permission from the district attorney's office to begin to interview Mr. Paris. Detective Sergeant Rogers and a Mass State Trooper were able to actually get a confession out of Mr. Paris, which obviously led to his conviction. So the teamwork that these gentlemen displayed and the amount of work and perseverance that they showed over months to be able to gather this information, identify the individual, and successfully prosecute Mr. Paris is unheard of on cases like this. So through the exceptional work of these detectives, I heard from the DA's office, the prosecution team, the victim witness advocate, and also the Mestry family about the work that these gentlemen put into this case. So with that being said, I would like to recognize them with a Special Services Division unit commendation. So gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind standing up and coming up. So the work that you gentlemen put into this case to get this prosecution is unheard of. From Marion Ryan herself on down, everyone said that these cases are incredibly hard to prosecute, and through your work, we were able to successfully get a confession and a conviction and provide closure to the Mestry family. So thank you, gentlemen. You are a credit to yourselves, your families, the Westford Police Department, and the town of Westford. Thank you. Thank you very much. Captain Pelican was the detective lieutenant at the time, so I'd like to present you with this unit commendation. That's actually you'll move over here so the mic's not.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
done.
Thank you,
Well
the
done.
board. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to recognize their work.
Thanks,
Thank you, Chief. Well done, and we're very lucky to have you here. So thank you all.
Thank you.
We also would like to take a moment to celebrate Emergency Medical Services Week. And Joe Targ has given us a memo to go through, and Kristen's going to take us through it.
Sure, absolutely. Chief Tarr could not be here this evening, but there's a memo in the packet that this is Emergency Medical Services Week, and it's celebrated across the United States through May 21st through May 27th. Westford has one of the longest running ambulance services in the greater Lowell area. Over the last 76 years, Westford has continued to expand on the services that they provide in order to meet the demands of the growing population and community. The EMS system begins with the public safety telecommunicators who take the 911 calls for help. They obtain critical information, dispatch the appropriate resources, and can provide instructions for life-saving intervention over the phone prior to arrival of the first responders. Every member of the fire department is dually trained as firefighters and EMTs or paramedics. Westford operates 2 state-of-the-art ambulances, 24/7, staffed with paramedics who essentially bring an emergency room on wheels to those in need. The paramedics respond to medical emergencies with the firefighters who staff the fire engines, as well as members of our police department. The firefighters and police officers provide an immediate access to basic life support skills, level of care, and can aid our paramedics with patient care once the ambulance arrives. The men and women of the Westford organization take great pride in the quality of pre-hospital emergency medical care that we provide. We achieve this through our rigorous continuous quality improvement program, which helps us guide the countless hours of training for our members completed annually. None of this would be possible without the dedication of those employees or the unwavering support of the residents of Westford. So the chief asks that during EMS Week 2023, that the select board takes a moment to recognize the contributors of all our EMS providers make every day in support of the mission for the town of Westford to make it a safe place to live and work.
We certainly would like to take that opportunity. And I don't know if you would like us to do the official thing on the second page.
There is a proclamation.
Proclamation.
If you'd like to make that official through the proclamation.
That'd be great. I think we'd like to do that. So let me just pull up. Should we read the proclamation quick? I'm sorry, I'm going to peer over Kristen's shoulder here.
Blow it up a little bit. That's also on the screen.
Excellent. So, whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventive maintenance, preventive medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Therefore, the town of Westford, in recognition of this event, does hereby proclaim the week of May 21st through 27th, 2023 as Emergency Medical Services Week, with the EMS strong theme, EMS Week, where emergency care begins. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities, and it's signed by your select board. We'll make sure we sign that after the meeting.
And Tom, if I can just say, as somebody who has had the, I wouldn't say opportunity, but has had to use our emergency services, I can only say from personal experience how grateful I am for their response, their professionalism, their skills, and their compassion. They truly are tremendous, and at least on behalf of myself, and I think for all of the community, I say thank you.
Thank you. A few more things before I ask my fellow board members if they have anything else for open forum. First, Memorial Day is coming up, as you know, and Westford has a strong tradition of celebrating Memorial Day. There's a full list of activities that you can find on the website of the town, and one of the main events is on Sunday. The honor roll reading begins at 10:20, I think.
The War Memorials component starts at 8:30, and they go through the various war memorials. And then at 10:20, the honor roll reading does begin, yes.
And then the parade kicks off at noon. So please join us for celebrating Memorial Day here in Westford. The Westford, also want to take a moment to remember that there are folks in need here in Westford. The Westford Food Pantry has emergency needs that include Chef Boyardee, Campbell's Chunky Chicken Soup, pancake mix and syrup, cake and cookie mixes, all condiments, Spam, Boston baked beans, jelly, and toilet paper. The month of March was extremely active. We had 283 visits to the pantry. That's 60 more than this time last year, with over 1,100 bags of food and sundry items this month as compared to about 690 a year ago. So there are plenty of members among us that are in need. And if you have an opportunity, please bring one of those items to the Westford Food Pantry, which is located in the Cameron Senior Center. And that is my list of things. Anything else that folks have for open forum? Yes, Scott.
So, a couple of years ago, I think it was, or a year ago, the Commission on Disabilities talked about having closed captioning on our meetings, and WWCAT kind of took over that leadership role, and thanks to WCAT, and thank you, Sarah. Tonight, we should be having, if you're watching on WCAT, seeing closed captioning on your screen. So if that is working out really well for you, please let us know. If it's not working out, please let us know, because we may want to do this. This is a pilot tonight. In fact, last night you also had a working for the school committee meeting, if you didn't see that. But if it works out well, we get a lot of feedback. We would consider doing that as part of our ongoing operations. So thanks, Sarah, WCAT.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks, WCAT. Any other items? Okay, we're going to move to our 7:05 agenda item, consent agenda, request to approve the following. It's a banner request from the Westford Education Foundation for Westfest. The applicant is Sarah Bischoff. The dates requested are September 15th, 2023 through September 24th, 2023. Location is First Parish Church. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That together, thank you. Now to our 7:10 item, which is a continuation of our May 9th public hearing. We are going to hear about a electric conduits petition, request from National Grid to excavate the public highways and to run and maintain underground electric conduits to be located. There's a number of other identifying marks here in our agenda regarding this project. Do we have Joanna back?
I just promoted her, so she should be joining in a
Okay.
moment.
And thank you, Joanna, for working with Steve to make sure that we have all the items, all of his questions answered, and I think everyone was able to see in the packet that you very efficiently answered all his questions, and he's satisfied with the results of that.
So I see her on my screen, but I don't see her on the big screen. Joanna, can you hear us?
Hmm. I see Joanna there. It looks like she's unmuted, and it looks like her camera's off, but yeah, we aren't seeing her here. Let's see, any suggestions, Eric, for what we might want to do to try to connect with Joanna?
There's no audio. We can't hear.
There's no
We
audio.
can't even hear you on the audio. I could hear you back in the room.
And I can see her on the panelists, but I can't see her on the regular Zoom screen.
Should this be on audio here? Should this be on? Joanna, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks,
for
Joanna.
bearing with us.
So again, thank you for going back and forth with Steve Cronin to make sure his questions were answered, and I think you did a great job doing that. Any questions from the board about this project? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
Well, some of these questions are still unanswered, like the schedule and detouring and stuff like that. That's a major artery in our town, and I think we need to know more about how they're going to do this. I mean, are they asking us to approve this now based on something we don't know?
That is the request. I guess, Joanna, do you have any updated information on scheduling for this project?
we lose her again?
we're not getting you here.
I'm wondering if Steve Cronin is comfortable with moving forward, if we could hear from him. I think he's
I'll
on.
promote him now, yep. Steve, can you hear us?
I can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Steve. So like, the questions to you, are you comfortable with what you've heard, and are you comfortable moving forward with the fact that the schedule is not hammered down specifically?
Yes, I am. I think, we were just asked that as soon as Grid is aware of what the schedule is, we realize there are a lot of moving parts here, but once they finalize that, they can just let us know.
Okay. Folks comfortable with that?
Steve's happy.
I'm assuming this would be
Chris.
taking place during the summertime. We're not talking about September when we'd be potentially interrupting traffic to the schools.
Joanne, do you have a sense of schedule? Do you think it'll happen over the next 3 months?
I don't know for sure. I would guess it would be, most likely next year would be the start.
Next year, okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, I think,
But once it's finalized, I can let you all know.
okay, that'd be great, and it sounds like Steve's comfortable as long as we get him the information as soon as we have it, in terms of schedule. Okay, so I think do we need a motion, a vote on this
So it's a
petition?
public
You
hearing.
need
so
to
have ask
close
for-
the public hearing.
It's a public hearing, so do you have to ask
Oh.
for comments from
Oh,
the
okay.
public?
Any comments from the public? Okay, and this needs a vote? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve,
Close the
You
public
close the
hearing.
public hearing first.
I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'll now entertain a motion to approve this petition.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you much. Next item is a joint meeting with Finance Committee, 720 items, joint meeting with the Finance Committee to consider fiscal '23 budget transfers in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 33B. I think we need a minute to welcome the Finance Committee. While that's coming up, Kristen, you did a great job in the memo in the packet explaining what each of these are. Maybe we could just walk through each one and see if there are any questions.
Absolutely. I can't take all the credit. Dan prepared the majority of the memos, so I will actually transfer that over to him to present to you this evening.
And just for one moment, I'm not sure I don't see Christina yet here.
She's not coming.
Oh, okay. Who's going to be acting as chair from the Finance Committee tonight?
Tom, if he's here, but Dennis was also supposed to be here in person, so he is not here yet. So we're missing our 3 officers at the moment. We don't have a quorum yet.
Heather, Beth, Hari, Shelby. And that's it right now.
Jake is supposed to be here as well.
Jake just joined. I'll promote him right now.
I'm here from Hari as well from Finance Committee.
Okay. Well, Dan, if we don't have a quorum, should we can advance to another item
We
and
have
come
5.
back?
We have 5 now. So that's
Jake's
it.
here too?
Yep.
Okay. And Hari has been chair in the past, so if we want Hari to act as chair in this case, that could be the call for a
Okay.
vote for them.
Yeah, if there's a
Here's
quorum and
Dennis.
Hari's.
Dennis just
Oh, here's
There's
Dennis.
Okay,
Sorry,
we
Hari,
definitely
Dennis
have
is
quorum now. And Hari, if you'd like to act as chair tonight, if that's okay.
Actually-
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think
Dennis is going to be acting as chair?
Right.
I guess I am.
Okay, welcome. Welcome. Okay. Now that we're all set, Kristen, if maybe we can walk through and entertain questions and discussion on each of these.
Sure. This is a standard item on your agenda in this time of year, and I will turn it over to Dan to discuss the mechanics of this and the specific requests for your consideration, both on the Finance Committee and Select Board level.
Great. So I'll go through these one by one. We have 5 different transfer requests here. The first is to transfer $5,000 from the town manager personal services to the expense account for the purposes of updating the furniture in the town manager's office. Most of Town Hall had furniture replaced back in 2008 with the, or 2009 when we were down at Millennium. However, the town manager's office did not have the furniture replaced, so it's very old, very not user-friendly, I'd say. And so Kristen provided a quote from a secondhand store to purchase furniture for her office. They were requesting $5,000 to transfer to. So.
Any questions from the select board? Finance committee, any questions?
No, just one of those. Did we call the finance committee to order already? I'm calling it to order now, so.
All right.
Okay, now we can vote, right?
Great. All right, the next one is for recycling expenses. We actually talked about this on the lead up to annual town meeting. Our recycling expenses, where we made over $39,000 in splitting the processing fees last year with Waste Management. The market shifted, the market for cardboard and mixed paper just collapsed. And so this year, we're estimated to need an additional $112,000 to supplement the recycling budget. The good news is that our solid waste budget, we're expected to close out about $120,000 this year. So it's great that people are recycling and our overall tonnage is down. But this is our big request for the transfers is the $112,000 to make sure we can afford the pickup in May and June for our town.
Any questions? Okay.
Any questions from the finance committee? No, I don't see any. Go ahead. Who's up?
At least said we're good.
Okay.
Next up is $3,000 for the sealer weights and measures expenses. As you all know, we entered into a contract with NIMCOG effective January 1st of 2023 to handle all the those processes for us. However, the state was handling all the verification beforehand, and they did perform services for us in 2022. Therefore, we do have an invoice for $3,000 that we were not anticipating. So we would like to pay that one-time expense and then we're done with the state as our representative for the sewer weights and measures.
Okay, any questions? Okay.
Any questions from the finance committee? No, I guess we're all set.
Okay, then next up we have wastewater management expenses, which of course the Public Works took over many years ago at this point. We had some unexpected expenses for the Blanchard plant. The anoxic rotating biological contractor needs to be repaired. I can't explain what that is, but Mark Warren knows what it is, and it was a $14,000 expense that we were not anticipating. And also at the Westford Academy treatment plant, we needed some engineering and analytical services costing just over $6,000 for water quality improvements. We are able to absorb some of these costs within that wastewater budget, but we are requesting $13,500 to be transferred from Highway Personal Services, where we're expecting a large closeout year end.
Any questions? Okay.
Two people from FinCom.
I have a question on FinCom. This is
Okay.
Heather.
All right, Heather. Go ahead.
For the wastewater repairs, Dan, can you refresh my memory? Is this stuff that is related to the new work that's being done there in the capital request, or is this old stuff? And also I'm wondering if the WA includes the recent issues that they had there last week or whatever it was.
Do we have Steve Cronin on the line?
I just brought Mark Warren
Mark?
up, and
Okay,
we also have
that'd be
Steve.
great.
Yep.
Is there gonna be a response?
Mark or Steve, are you able to help answer that question?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, good, I'm here. So, sorry, it took me some time to get logged in here. So, the repairs to the Blanchard wastewater plant in Oxford RBC was not part of the rehabilitation project. After the project was completed, we noticed that the gearbox sounded terrible. We had someone come in, take a look at it. It was in very bad shape. The chain itself also was in bad shape. So we did have to go ahead and purchase a gearbox and chain and and hire someone to install them. And it is a critical process tank. Without operating the tank, you can't operate the plant itself. So I think that answers your question. There wasn't part of the rehab. There was an additional issue.
Yes, that answers my, thank you. And then I'm just wondering if the recent issues with WA.
I'm sorry, go ahead. We're trying to address a water quality issue, biological oxygen demand, actually. So that additional cost is to cover purchase of additional chemical. We've contracted with an engineer to provide some guidance, and we've had to do some extra sampling. That's where that 6180 comes. So it's an effluent water quality issue we're trying to resolve.
So I'm hearing that there were issues with the septic wastewater at Blanchard last week, I think it was. Is that bills yet to come then?
I'm not aware of, no, there should be no bill for that. I believe that was an odor issue. Is that what you're referring to?
I heard leakage and odor, but.
Okay. Yeah, from an operation of the plant itself, that doesn't really fall under our purview. That's more of a facilities thing. So from my end, no, I don't expect any additional costs for that. As far as facilities or the schools goes, I can't really speak to that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You all set, Heather?
All set, thank you.
Okay. Jacob Levy?
Yeah, I had a question for Mark on the Blanchard repairs, but he had answered it during his response, so all set.
Okay.
All right.
All set here.
Okay, if there are no other questions from the select board, I will entertain a motion to approve the end-of-year transfer fund requests as described.
You have one more,
Electrical,
Oh, I'm sorry.
the last one.
electrical supplemental
Please.
expenses.
Great. All right. The last one has to do with our net metering credits and some utility bills. So basically what happened is we have 3 different net metering contracts, and one of them with our contract B with Charlton. What happens is Nexamp and National Grid reconcile the readings at the end of each month, and National Grid system is malfunctioning, so it's not reading correctly, so they're not reconciling. So they're working on this now, but we have not paid a Nexamp bill since November because of this issue. Because of this, we still have to continue paying our National Grid bills, but we're not applying the credits to the bills at this point. So we're running into kind of a timing issue with these invoices. Eventually, we will receive the Nexamp invoices. We will have to pay those. However, we paid more for National Grid than we were anticipating this year. So once we do get those Nexamp invoices, the credits will be applied, and we should have some credits going into next year, which is great. But this is all just really a timing issue that we're dealing with at this point. So, and National Grid has not given us a time schedule for when this will be resolved. So we're anticipating that we may have to encumber these transfers into next year, so we don't have any bills of prior year.
Yep.
Could we, as we have done in the past in other issues, put some pressure on National Grid? They're screwing up our budget. And so I think perhaps a letter or something to National Grid saying, you know, get your act together and reconcile your accounts, because you're really, you know, like I said, you're screwing up our accounts and our budgets. So I think that we should draft a letter to National Grid and let them know that, you know, this is really not acceptable.
John?
Dan, do you think we'll recoup the entire amount, or do you have an idea of how much we will recoup?
Yeah, we'll get the entire amount of the credit. So we believe Nexamp's reading is correct. It's just National Grid can't reconcile at this point. So they have made some fixes through November. That was one big effort, but again, they haven't made it through the rest of the year. So I'm not confident we'll have the invoices and the credits applied before year end.
Okay, and I hear Andrea's request to send in a letter to the appropriate receiving party. Any other questions for this last one? Okay.
Any questions from the Finance Committee on this?
Okay, now, now I'll entertain a motion from the select board to accept, to approve the fiscal '23 budget transfers in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 33B, as described here.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I'll entertain a motion from the Finance Committee to entertain those same budget transfers for the FY '23 on this budget as reviewed tonight. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Who was that? Ari, okay. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, Heather. All right. Any further discussion on these items? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All those, I'm going to do roll call. Yeah, so Heather, how you voting? Heather Fitzgerald?
Aye. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Shelby?
Aye.
Harry?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Jacob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Dennis, do you want to adjourn?
We can
Or
adjourn.
you can stay in session with us if you want. You're welcome.
What's the pleasure of the Finance Committee? Is there a motion to adjourn our meeting for tonight?
I move to adjourn the finance committee meeting.
All right, Harry, second?
Second.
Jacob. All right, so again, Beth, how you vote?
Aye.
Harry?
Aye.
Shelby?
Aye.
Jacob?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye, but I'm gonna stay on.
Okay. All right. I'm all set. I'll vote aye as well, so we're all set. Thank you very much.
Super. Thanks, Finance
Thank
Committee.
you.
740 item is to discuss the American Rescue Plan from here. And just to recap, we agreed to hold a special session, which is now scheduled for June 6th, to go through this in detail. And Dan provided us a great spreadsheet tool to help us see all of the remaining outstanding requests and the amounts and the ranking of the within groupings, the rankings from the different requesters. So thank you very much for putting that together. I've been working with that. It's a terrific, it's exactly the right tool for the job. Do you want to just ask if there are any questions that people might have with the tool, or see if there's any questions from the public about the process from here? Are we all comfortable with the tool as provided?
I mean, on the tool, yes. Can I ask a question about one of the items?
Sure.
On so the money for the healthcare trust account,
Yes.
can you explain just, what, does that help us with rates at all? What actually is that doing for us? I think it's a little confusing to the average person reading that.
Yeah, so in the future, it will help. We're trying to reach a level of funding of 3.7 million. As of April 30th, that level is at 2,036,000. So we're slowly working this up. So in the next couple of years, what we'll be doing is we'll be setting the rates to not only cover the existing expenses, but try to add to that balance as well. So rates may go up a little bit higher in that time. Once we reach that $3.7 million target, I think rates will start to level off and just, be enough to incur the increases from year to year. So it's going to help stabilize the trust in the future.
I guess from a budget standpoint, if we were to put, say, I think it was 500 grand, into that account, does that save us money in the FY24 budget, or does it not do anything at all for us?
Not in the FY24. In future years, it might help. If we start to run a little bit better, we may see some savings and reach that target sooner, which basically we could budget less in future years. Maybe, I'm not confident on FY25, maybe 26 and beyond, but that will give us a jump start to hitting that target.
John?
This is more like a reserve fund, is it not? In other words, this trust fund, you draw from it if you need it, but it's kind of a reserve fund or something similar to that, right?
It's actually, it covers all of our health insurance except for our Medicare. So all the expenses are pulled from there, our monthly bills, our stop loss insurance, and then all the contributions, like the town share of the insurance and the employee and retiree share, go into this fund. So it's all self-contained within this one fund. So it's not really like a reserve fund, it's really our whole operations for health insurance.
So right now we have about 2.1 million?
Yep, just a little bit under, yep.
And Dan, you shared some helpful information with me in an email, just that the good practice level that we want to get to, I think, is 3.7, and we've been sort of chunking away at it as we go. We could get there faster if we allocate the funding this way, but the normal practice, if it wasn't ARPA, would be to every year allocate some additional money till we get to that target.
I'd just like to have, take a look at it from the standpoint of obligation of funds and spending of funds. We have to obligate it by the end of '24.
That's correct,
Spend it
yep.
by the end of '26.
Correct.
And these specific dollars, I mean, are they gonna be obligated and expended in that manner? And I have a question about how that works, and I don't need to answer it now, but I think it'd be something just to.
Sure, I could answer it.
Okay.
So it would be a transfer into the health insurance trust fund where we spend at least 1.4 million per month. So we could say to the treasury that we spent that.
1.4
Per month?
No, it's not.
1.4 million we spend
For
per?
health insurance expenses, yes. Yep.
We've
That's
got
it.
money coming in.
Yep, that's the employee and the employer
Okay. Oh, all
share,
right.
so it's 2/3 town cost,
Okay.
but, sorry to scare you. But justifying that we spent that 500,000 could be done within the first month of allocating, and then we consider it obligated and expended.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big number, and it's one of the main chess pieces, so in our special meeting on the 6th, we'll definitely talk about the pros and cons of allocating more or less into that category. Chris?
Does the 3.7 million threshold change over time?
As I would say, yes, it could go up. It's about 3 months worth of expenses for health insurance. So the part of the rationale for having this reserve is, one, in case we have a lot of large losses in a short time period. That way we don't have to appropriate other funds at year end to cover the losses. And the other is if we ever want to leave the trust, which I don't think we do, but it's just sound practice to have enough runoff to cover those costs if we do ever want to dissolve the trust.
And the agency that requires this doesn't allow for, say, our free cash reserves to be used in that manner?
We could appropriate free cash to the health insurance trust. That just requires a town meeting vote as well. So.
But if we did that and dropped our free cash reserves down, then we might have other issues.
Right, then
with
there
our-
could be less capital funded, or, it's all a trade-off.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about sort of the arc of activities from here, or just the general tools that we've got? Okay. Great. The school committee contacted me this evening to say they had some additional clarification they wanted to make. I said we could continue to accept new information probably for about the next week, but after that we'd want to, in the week leading up to the 6th, we kind of want to have all the final stuff. So you may see that coming from them. Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Great, thank you.
Next up, 7:50 is discussion of the strategic planning retreat. Kristen?
Sure. So in your tradition over the past few years, you've held a strategic planning retreat at Kimball Farms. Several years ago, it was in June, and then you had moved it to September. And so speaking with some board members, the wish was to have it in September. We discussed some potential dates based upon school calendar and other boards and committee meetings last meeting. And the consensus that came out was that September 7th from 5 to 8 p.m. at Kimball Farm would be best. So we've shop that around, and the department heads are aware of that date and time. I know some of you have provided me with some thoughts about topic areas and suggestions. I've also asked for topic areas and suggestions from department heads. So we'll be prepared, I think, at your first or second meeting in June to provide you with topic area discussions and then move forward related to that. Some of the high level ones that we've heard are the water rates and the water treatment plant and PFAS, the MBTA communities, some other zoning type matters, and then Scott, I think there was one other that you had
School
suggested.
facility study,
School
if this was
facilities
done.
study. There might have been one or two more, but we'll prepare a comprehensive report for all of you to focus in and understand that, and our staff will begin planning with Kimball Farms and begin planning the outreach for our community members.
Good, thank you. It's a great event. Please put it on your calendar. For those of you who've been here many years. Yeah, and delicious food, delicious ice cream. Thanks to Kimball's for hosting again on more or less the same terms, I think, as last time, which was
Correct.
very generous of them, so we appreciate that.
I think, Elizabeth, I'll be just to say that was your civic duty to come and eat ice cream.
Yeah. Good. Any questions or further discussion on the strategic planning retreat for now? Okay. We are going to move to old new business. So one of the topics that, and Ken, if you could please promote Ken Teal from the Recycling Commission. So in past meetings, we've discussed some of the big budget challenges that we may have, we're going to have in this coming year. One of them relates to an expected large jump up in our waste handling costs. So the Recycling Commission, being proactive as they are, would like to spend a little bit of time over the course of a few meetings over the next several months, just sort of educating us and the public on where sort of Westford stands and what the state of affairs are, so we can look to some of the practical solutions we might take to address that important environmental issue, but also budget issue. So Ken, welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate your interest in this. I also appreciate previously talking to Andrea and Scott in this regard. I think this is a great opportunity for us to, join hands and, present a full big program of what we want to do for recycling and solid waste. Thank you for the opportunity. We hope to be able to do this regularly. Elizabeth Sawyer is on this call, and she is going to present our, first, our introduction to this process. And I think that you'll find it to be very useful. And I think by the end of a cycle of these, we will all have a very good understanding as we face the challenges of new recycling contracts and solid waste contracts. And that's a big deal. We're looking forward to reviewing all the bids next week. And now we have to handle it as individuals and as a community. Elizabeth, I think we can give it to you.
Okay. So what we thought we'd start with tonight is giving the broad perspective of the state with respect to trash. And so Eric is going to help me display these slides here. And in particular tonight, what we're going to cover are 3 challenges facing the state with respect to trash disposal. The big picture on what the state wants all municipalities to do in response to these challenges, and then the next steps. So first, the challenges in Massachusetts. We've heard these touched on lightly in meetings here that had to cover a lot. And so what we thought we'd do is put some more context behind each of these challenges, because they matter a lot and they shape what's allowed in the trash. They shape why these pressure points are so looming, and they really highlight what the key calls to action are. So the one we'll delve into a little bit tonight is this first one, which is limited space to put trash. And to have that be more than just a bullet point, that sounds a lot like, well, we're not going to take this action because, there's no funding for it. People can interpret a statement like that to mean many different things. So even saying we're running out of space could be vague if we don't really convey what we mean by that. And so what Eric's going to do now is do some screen sharing that lets us see that. And Eric, could I trouble you to open a new Google window? Because I want people to see just how easy it is to find this. So I want to simulate what it would be like to search for this. So if you just go to Google and type in just 3 terms, DEP for Department of Environmental Protection, Massachusetts for our state, and the word landfills, you'll get back a results list, and the document that we're going to look at now is going to be, if not the first, the top in your list. If you've gone to it before, it might be higher than other things, but it won't be hard to find. So this document, this page has a number of documents that give you context about Massachusetts landfills, transfer stations, and other facilities. We're going to focus just on the landfills. So Eric, if you could scroll down, please. I'm going to be speaking to these first 3 documents. We're not going to open the first one. I'm just going to point out it's there. It's a spreadsheet. So if you're somebody who likes working in spreadsheets and wants to slice and dice this in a number of ways, that's your document. To keep it easy for us to speak to tonight, we're just going to look at flat documents that are lists. They give us what we need to just really put meaning behind what we mean when we're saying we're running out of space. We'll get a sense of how many landfills are still open in the state and perspective on how many no longer are. So Eric, if you could click that second link there. This is a 5-page document. It lists the active landfills as of January 2020. And many documents in the state are not updated annually, and this applies here as well. But many documents like this one give you some context that let you take it forward by showing us which of these active landfills are scheduled to close after 2020. And we can see that many of these landfills are in fact scheduled to close after 2020. What we have here is a list of 19 landfills that were open as of January 2020. And at this time in the state, there are only 7 open landfills. So even since 2020, a number of additional ones have closed. So if you go through the list and you see the ones that were scheduled to close in 2020, 2021, and you dig on that, you'll see that they have in fact closed. So 7 still open, and Eric, if you could go to the list of closed landfills, so back at the main page. This helps to broaden our perspective of how many we once had in the state. This document, which lists ones that were closed, is 102 pages long. And there are 9 or 10 landfills listed per page. So when you add the ones that have closed between 2020 and the present, we're at about 1,000 closed landfills in the state. Not all of them are equivalent to the ones that are still operating. In fact, most of the 1,000 are small. But continuing on this point of perspective, in the 80s, there were hundreds of open landfills. And most of those were municipal landfills, owned by, operated in the town. And you can look around and you can see Bluebird Hill in Westford, Drum Hill in Chelmsford. Once you know what you're looking at for a mound that's flat and has vents or maybe solar panels on it, you can look around and see what were the former landfills. So when we say we're running out of space in the state, we mean we have these 7 landfills and none of them are expected to have capacity beyond 2031. And most will reach capacity before that. So back to our slides, when we say we're running out of space, we're really running out of space. And so we are going to have to look at alternatives, including more and more export of our trash to states that are still accepting materials. There are 2 other big challenges in the state. There's an environmental impact of disposing trash, from greenhouse gases to toxins. And there are additional issues with our regional incinerators. And for Westford, we care about that, particularly because all of our trash that's picked up from our curbs or our municipal buildings or schools are hauled to a facility in Haverhill that's about 25 miles away as a crow flies and burned in a facility that is past its expected lifespan and has some other issues. So because tonight we were given 5 minutes to sort of just get this started, I'm going to save elaborating on those other 2 points for when we're invited back again to make a guest appearance, and just kind of continue this pattern of trying to, share what we've learned, recap briefly what we've already covered, but then add to it. So we'll round out a little bit more about the challenges. But it's very clear in the state what the desired response is to these challenges. And so we don't want to hold that punchline. We want to go to that next slide and really highlight what will be the mantra. It is to reduce trash. It's diversion. It is the key to all those challenges. The less we dispose of in any way, either to an incinerator or directly to a landfill, the less we're tapping our own space or requiring it to be exported to another state, and the less greenhouse gases and the less toxins going into the air. There's also a broad set of positive things that come through diversion, because Massachusetts in particular is an economy and a social structure that is innovating and investing in this space. So not a lot of good happens when we burn our trash, but now when we recycle mattresses, 75% or more of that content is not burned, not trashed, is put into some other use. But there's also a good example of the social element there, and that one of the leaders in this area for mattress recycling is UTEC out of Lowell, which is a company that helps young people gain skills. They're paid for their work. It is bringing about job experience and a community that these young people otherwise were challenged to have. So UTEC tapped this opportunity in the state to add this to their portfolio. And that's just one example of what we mean by how diversion has this broader benefit for this state. So the next slide, again, we're really just trying to get this started. We're trying to paint the picture that that there are big drivers from the state. Those drivers are the reasons the state's been advocating to the municipalities in the Commonwealth for decades to dramatically reduce the volume of trash that's being sent to be handled, disposed of in some way. And so diversion has many forms. Refusing, reducing, reusing, recycling is like Plan E. But in the state, we have many ways to handle our stuff that isn't trash. And what we invite everybody to do to sort of help shape your own thoughts about this conversation is to observe the trash at Westford's curbs. Westford is a very heavy town. On maps of weights, we stand out in the colors of orange. We are among an ever-shrinking body of towns that are in the heaviest weights. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to tap into diversion in a way on a scale that we haven't been historically. And in future conversations, we can link that to how that also can have a dramatic impact in reducing the incineration fees that Westford is currently paying. And also, if you're interested in diverting, as I mentioned, there are so many ways to do that already. The Westford recycling page has many of those. The biggies, curbside recycling. Paper is consistently one of the highest weighted items in trash trucks arriving at incinerators and landfills. That's an item that has been recyclable in the curbside containers for 25 years and has not been dramatically impacted by market changes. So it's just an example of how even curbside recycling can still be tapped more than it is being done, at least at the state level. And composting is another big opportunity. So again, we're hoping that we can just have this be the beginning of a conversation that reiterates, builds, expands, and then moves specifically into Westford's opportunities.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks, Ken. So yeah, looking forward to engaging more on this because it's important in so many ways that you've highlighted. Any questions or comments from the board for now? We will be coming back to this in a few doses over the next 3 or 4 months. Any questions from the public? Okay, well, Elizabeth and Ken, I think you've gotten us started, so thank you very much for that. And we'll look forward to finding another time to get together and continuing the discussion.
Great. Thank you very much.
Great. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Okay, next item up is, and we're about on time. I wanted to make sure that we stayed pretty close to time so that if anyone did want to jump in, who's up for the next item, which is discussion of the Budget Task Force, had a chance to say a few words. So what we're doing tonight is, you've seen in past meetings where we're impaneling a budget task force to help us address some of the big budget challenges we've got in the coming year. And most of the members are already appointed to this committee. And tonight we're looking forward to appointing 2 members of the public as full members and 2 members as alternates. The idea there is that we want to make sure that when we do the scheduling, we'll try to accommodate everybody, but we want to have a few alternates just in case for the outside chance that we're not able to put together a meeting schedule that accommodates everybody and the full-time members. And we would certainly invite the alternate members to attend the meetings and be part of the discussion as well. We have a number of folks. Thank you very much for volunteering your time and effort. We have 12 volunteers that put forward the Citizens Action form requested for consideration for tonight. We did want to give anyone a chance who is here, who would like to, just to say a few words about why they're interested in this, just very briefly. And I see Erica. Let me see if there's anybody else.
I see Amy Lindquist as a panelist.
You do, okay.
Excuse me, as an attendee, if she'd like to be promoted as a panelist.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and promote Amy, and we'll get to Amy in just a second. But I think Amy and Erica are the 2 that I can see, and if I've missed anyone, please let me know. Erica, would you like to come up to the mic? And
Tom, the woman, I don't know your name, I'm sorry. But
It's Shana Farnsworth.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shana. I'm glad to see you. Thanks for being here. Okay, well, let's go alphabetically. So, Shana, why don't you go, would you like to come up to the mic and just say a few words?
Hi, I'm Shana Farnsworth. I have been kind of following some of these budget issues since we were in that big pre-COVID craziness with the school budget. And I went to some of those meetings, the select board and school committee meetings, and I was like, why are we cutting the school budget? And then I sat there and listened and was like, oh, there's no money. Like, we can't give money that doesn't exist, right? And money has to come from someplace to the other. And I remember at one of those meetings getting up to the mic and saying, how are we going to make more money? That seems to be the root cause of this problem. And everyone's, yeah, it's kind of the root cause of the problem. And so I feel like I've been kind of waiting for the opportunity to help answer that question. How, as a town, are we going to get more money? We can't give to the schools if there isn't money. We can't give to the police or fire if there isn't money. And as a town, we need to come together and figure out how we can increase revenue so that we are preventing cuts in our budget moving forward and getting our teachers and our police and fire and other departments what they need. I may not be the biggest financial person, but I love to learn. I am a huge problem solver. My brain is always going and ticking, and I was just looking for the opportunity to get a little bit more involved and maybe help come to a resolution for the problem. I have an elementary age child, so I obviously have some vested interest in the town. I'm going to be here quite some more time, and then also in obviously the school budgets as well. So thank you for considering.
Thank you, Shana.
Thank you.
Amy, we'd love to hear any thoughts you have about what makes you interested in this opportunity.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I've lived in Westford just about 12 years now. I've also got 2 school-aged children. I've had the opportunity to work in Robinson Elementary the last couple of months, helping out as a principal's aide, seeing the insides of the schools. I really enjoy the town. I haven't had an opportunity to get involved in many things. I've been home with my kids for quite some time. So my background is in public administration and higher education. I'm looking for something to get involved in the town, and this seemed like a great option. The flexibility to be able to get a little bit more involved, share some knowledge, hopefully, learn a little bit more about this budget process. I've seen, our property values go up and our taxes go up over the years. And it's a wonderful place to live, and people are trying to get in. So help solve some of those issues, our budget issues, and offer some service to the town.
Great. Thank you, Amy. We really appreciate you being here. And Erica, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you for asking me to speak. I am interested in performing on this committee. I have a lot of interest in efficiency. I've always had that. I love to optimize stuff. I was excited when I went to college that I would be able to do optimization problems and get paid. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And so this seems like a good opportunity for being able to put some of that excitement to work. In industry, I recently retired, so I do have the time to put into this effort. I thought that this would be a good opportunity to apply some of the skills that I have in terms of risk and opportunity management and being able to look at where we might have risks in the budget, where we might have opportunities in the budget, and evaluate how we might be able to optimize the budget in order to accommodate risks and opportunities. And I also just look forward to being able to serve the town, and that's a passion of mine as well. I also noticed that there are a lot of great candidates, and honestly, whoever you select, I'm sure we're going to be very well served. So I'm not heartbroken if you don't choose me, but thank you for your consideration.
Great.
Thanks, Erica.
Thanks, Erica. Okay, so we have our panel of 12, and why don't we open the floor for discussion a bit, and we can see if we're grouping together, or yep, Chris.
Just for clarity, do we want to reiterate when we expect these meetings to be held, just so people are aware of that?
We had a number of good, I'm glad you asked that, we had a number of good questions on that, and after a little bit of internal conferring, we've decided we want to get the best committee we can, and then we'll find a way to make the scheduling work. We had, earlier on, I'd had a little bit of an interest in, for such a staff-heavy committee, trying to keep it during the workday so they didn't have an extended day. But I think everyone involved is committed to having the best committee possible. So what we will do immediately after we select our two primary and our alternates tonight is send out a doodle poll to look for the first meeting and try to basically zero in on what meeting times work for the most people. So it won't be in the morning because our valiant finance committee chair is actually working remotely from Hawaii this year. So noon is like the earliest possible start time. So it'll be sometime between noon and early evening.
And maybe do we want to speak to what does an alternate get to do on the committee for some of these folks who've maybe never served on a committee? Maybe that might be helpful to let people know.
Well, typically an alternate would be invited to participate in the discussion. They wouldn't be there to vote. And I think the initial reason that we wanted to make sure we had some alternates is in case we couldn't solve the scheduling problem. So I think what we would do is sort of reconvene then and see if the alternates want to continue to participate as a joiner in the meeting but non-voting, or if I'm not sure it would be required that they continue once we get a meeting schedule that accommodates the two primaries. Okay, well, any thoughts? And it could be sort of what we think we need from this member of the public committee member in particular, or it could be discussion of a particular candidate.
I guess if I think what we want is what I want. What I think we want is the what ifs, right? So if we follow the current path, we know where that leads. If we follow different paths, where do they lead, and what are the costs and benefits? So I was thinking that there's at least one candidate who's an accountant, which maybe gives Dan some company and Jenny some company with another accountant. But more importantly, or as importantly, there are a couple there who had backgrounds in strategic planning, and I thought that was an interesting possibility as well. So that's just think about needs. To me, it was maybe perhaps the county has kind of met with our town staff, but the vision of how do you plan long term and how do you plan for contingencies, that's something that, we could probably use some other views on.
Good, thanks. Chris?
So one thought that I had was, one of the reasons that we're having this committee is, obviously, I think to deal with potential pressure on the budget due to school staff salaries and the desire to see if we can improve there. And I think it would be helpful to have a member of the school community outside of the school committee on this task force, so that it's as transparent as it can be, that whoever that person is can work with potentially the school union and keep them informed, because I think they're going to want to know what's happening here, and I know there's going to be the best effort made to be as transparent as possible. I think that would be a helpful step in keeping this process going as smoothly as possible with all the groups that I think have a vested interest.
Yep, Andrea.
So I think it's important, following up on your comment, Chris, that everybody understands that these meetings will be public meetings. So anybody can attend, including school people, town staff or whomever, residents or whatever. So I think it's really important that everybody understand that they are open in public meetings. And the second comment I just want to say, Chris, is that while certainly school salaries are an issue, they aren't the only issue that the town is facing. And, we've got issues, we've heard, what are, over the course of the last 7 or 9 months, we've heard that, our trash fees are going up, our recycling fees are going up, our heating costs are going up, our building costs are going up. We have issues on the town side as well. So I don't want this committee to be looked at as solving the school problem, because it's not just a school problem. We're a town and a community, and we have to work at this as a town and a community on both sides. So I think that's important. I don't want this to be considered it's a school problem, because it's not. It's all of our problems, and it's a town-wide problem, and we've got issues on everywhere that we have to address through this. So
thanks.
I agree with Andrea's comments, and I think we need to look at the community at large. And if we were going to go down the road of having interest of certain departments, we'd almost have to look at other departments the same, who has the interest of the town employees at heart. So I think the community at large is important here, and the expertise that they bring. So.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. When I was thinking about this, I was also, one of the challenges is going to be to communicate effectively something that a lot of people aren't that comfortable with. So it's, a lot of people are new to budgeting and aren't as comfortable with numbers. So I thought the idea of having people from the public who either had experience in helping to communicate effectively, financial issues, or were new to the process that could help us, give us the insights, like, you're using jargon I don't understand, my neighbors aren't going to understand that, or why are we doing it this way? I think having a new set of eyes right inside the process will help us design product that will be easier for people to absorb and easier for people to accept. So I both was interested in some of the people with strategic backgrounds and sort of educator, like the accounting educator background, but also some of the people we've heard tonight who I think could bring an excellent fresh point of view and help us sort of see through their eyes as we're creating a lot of this stuff.
I would just add that, one of the challenges for me is, of the 12 names, I know 10 of them. I know 2 of them. I don't know 10 of them. So actually showing up was really helpful, because you can put a background and a personality to that spot. So thank you for coming in some ways that makes it helps to make it personal.
Just to get specific, so I think I actually marked ahead of time. I thought both Shayna and Amy, who we also were lucky enough to hear from tonight, might bring that kind of outside set of eyes to help us. So I don't know, I would think maybe I'd be interested in having one be a primary and one being an alternate, maybe.
I think, did you have an HR background as well?
I do, yeah, I do HR and contracting, so risk management, process procedures. I fell into a data analyst role when our reporting person quit, so I'm learning Excel, pivot tables, and, so that's an ongoing thing, but, I do a lot of like process improvement type things. I work with a, contingent labor, so contract labor, and so we have a lot of intricate balancing between internal staff, contract labor, and balancing all the different players in the work that I do.
I mean, about 80% of our budget is staff, so.
Recruiting and dealing with multiple personalities and people and hard conversations, lots of hard conversations.
Good, thank you for that. I'm going to remember next time we ask a question, invite the person to come to the mic so that people at home can hear.
Oh, sorry.
So, but that's on me. That's my job to invite you up. So,
It's the clerk.
it's the clerk. It's all John's fault. Also, we had a comment from Heather. Thank you for the comment that it's important to have people with good financial skills because town budgeting is not so simple, which is true.
And so to follow up on what Heather just said, somebody who I think would have financial skills would be an accountant. So I think the retired professor of accounting could add value and could add financial background to the committee.
Yeah, I sort of put him and also Vibhu Jain in that category, maybe as a primary and alternate, someone who could come and has experience communicating, has experience working with numbers. So I sort of was in my mind thinking that that those would fit too.
You know, Tom, just speaking about the alternates for a minute, I think also it should be clear, they can even if they can participate.
Absolutely.
You know, they don't have to, even once you get that meeting, you know, time arranged. I just want to make it clear, they don't have to drop off. They can continue to participate in the meeting. They won't be a voting member, but certainly, you know, their participation would be welcome and valued. So I just.
You actually want them there, because if for some reason you don't have enough people, you want them there to be able to make quorum.
So that's exactly
they're
right.
very
And
important.
this is going to be a pretty intensive
You
sprint.
also need, it's right, so.
Yeah, and people will have vacations in the summer, so I think the whole idea of, you know, welcoming them as active members is a great point to make. Okay, well, that's a good discussion. I don't know if anyone's feeling like they're converging on a.
I am, but are we locked to 2 alternates, or can there be 3?
I think 2, let's not have scope creep. I think 2 is probably sufficient.
I think 2 is.
I mean, Scott can make his case. I mean, just on balance, I think 2 and 2 is better, but you may have a great reason for it.
I was just looking at the names and saying, I've got 5. You know, I had kind of 5 coming in. I kind of got 5 confirmed, and I can't really find an easy way to cut one. So that was why it was selfish. Avoiding making a hard decision, that's all.
Well, I'll move the process along.
Okay, thank you.
I'll nominate Shayna and Vibhu as primary members, and Charles Feeney and Amy Lundquist as alternates. Okay.
Those are
Everyone
the
second
same.
that?
I will second that.
Those are the same 4 I have on my sheet.
No way.
Yep.
This is like a game of Clue.
Those are 4 out of my 5, so that's.
Awesome.
That's great. John, how are you feeling?
Well, I had Erica down as one of the alternates.
That's my
but-
5th.
Huh? That's
My
your
5th,
5th?
yeah.
And because she's here, and she's got a lot of experience in school committee.
Yeah, lots.
And she did some pretty daggum good work with that budget they were struggling with when I was on the FinCom. So I had her down as one of the 4.
Okay. Well,
The other 3, and I think I had her instead of, who was the other one? Lundquist?
Amy Lundquist.
Yes.
I had her down instead of Amy. Between the 2 of them.
Okay, well, we have Andrea's motion.
I second.
And you second. Would you during discussion, do you want to make a friendly suggestion that we add Eric as a 3rd?
I would, because, you know, so if you look at the skill set, I think all 5 have got the skill set. I do like the idea of a retired accounting professor who isn't here, but I think, you know, has got value. And I was really intrigued by, you know, Vibhu's background with strategy and planning. And there's also the fact that we kind of have a tradition of saying that showing up is half the battle. And we had 3 show up, and in fact, only one actually has written to me and saying, early on, I want to be a part of it. That was Erica. So I feel like, when you get expressed interest and past experience, relevant experience, that counts for something. So I would suggest a 3rd alternate, but that's.
Go fine.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with that, so I guess is that a friendly suggestion back to the motion maker?
That we have 3 alternates?
Yes.
I'm fine.
And have Erica be the alternate.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that as
Comfortable
well.
with that too? Okay, so just to reiterate, we're talking about Shanna Farnsworth and Vibhu Jain as primary, and Charles Feeney, Amy Lundquist, and Erica Cole as alternates. Okay, so we have a motion that's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Terrific. Thank you.
And thank you to
very
everybody.
much.
Thank you to everybody who applied. And as I said, they're open in public meetings, so feel free to attend and offer your comments.
Valerie, would you like to come up to the mic?
Can I just add something? Valerie Young, oh my God, I forgot my address. Former Marine Drive.
Who are you again?
Am I included in the vote, by the way? Am I officially appointed?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to reiterate the inclusive spirit of the group, right? That these will be public. We have talked about maybe having a dedicated webpage where the recorded meetings could be posted. And another idea that we talked about too was that if we reach sort of milestones or decision points that we think would make sense as less of a working group meeting, to maybe have an evening meeting or like to sort of alternate and not be locked into a daytime or an afternoon meeting, and really just try to open that up to be as inclusive and as accessible as possible, because we know how many stakeholders we have in this process. And to Tom's point earlier, that communication is going to be so important that it's not something we want to just reveal in September. We want to be talking about this all summer long as we make some discoveries or whatever, right, and reach some points. So I just want to reiterate that, so that if you're watching at home and you feel like you disappointed that you didn't get chosen, that we do want to, not to speak out of turn, but to really have that inclusivity and accessibility for the group.
Yeah. Thank you, Valerie.
Okay.
And there will be other committees.
There always are.
There's a lot of openings.
We have a lot of committees in this town. Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for those who came to be part of the discussion tonight. Our next item is review and act on select board liaison positions. And thank you for sending the updated liaison chart, which I'm going to find right here. So I think this did a great job of highlighting, well, I guess the first question for the group is, do we think this list, the more recent list that came out, if you haven't seen it, I apologize, it just came out today.
Yeah, we updated it mid-afternoon. Eric, could you bring it up on the screen if you have a moment, please?
The question from this very long list was, where do we really want to have liaisons to, because we can't do it all.
Right.
The short list
And we
basically-
don't have liaisons to all of them.
And some of those committees are.
And some of those committees are
Right, so we
defunct.
whittled it down, and then the revised list today is, do these committees still exist with a highlight, and then do you want to be involved, or who should be changed, so.
And well, I think the thing that this list gets right is, well, I don't know, this is for discussion. I think certainly we want to have our delegate to the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. I think that was the open one that I felt most strongly about. Having someone liaison with. I don't know if I have a passion for any of these others that are either unfilled or open.
Well, I think the MBTA communities one, don't we, do we have to have?
Yes.
I think we have to have a designee. The MBTA? Sure.
Oh.
Okay.
Are you volunteering, John?
I'd like to do that one.
Okay.
Because I worked on the marijuana thing, and I've worked with the planning board on a few other things, so I'd like to do that one.
Yeah, but Massachusetts, not marijuana, though.
Well, I know. I think we were overcome by events.
Great, thank you, John.
I'm happy to be the liaison to DEI if nobody else wants it.
That's great, Chris. I mean, just since you're new, do you have anything you're especially passionate about? I know you're already effectively on many of these things.
Yes, and I think I still need to be a part of some of them. I do think that the Community Preservation Committee I have to step back from. But I was certainly under strict guidance from my wife not to overextend myself, given my very hectic evening schedule. So I think where I currently am with Park and Rec and pedestrian safety, I think Scott and I can have a conversation about if we both need to be on that. But taking on additional stuff, I'd like to defer if possible.
Okay.
I just want to be clear, so CPC does not have a select board designee.
It's
right?
not-
We just added Chris's
By-
name
right,
because.
by law, the
right.
select board
Does
cannot
not-
have a designee
exactly.
on
So
it, so-
that, your name was just on there because we wanted to just have a discussion about it this
Yep.
evening.
Makes sense.
Okay. I think that we're in good shape then if John takes the MBTA position and Andrea, thank you, is willing to take the DEI position.
What about NIMCOG?
That's a big one.
We do get credits and points if people go and things like that for grant dollars.
Does it need to be a select board member?
So yes, one of the members
Designee.
does have to be a
It
select
does?
board or a designee.
It could be a designee.
It could be a designee.
Okay.
Because I think there's some people in the EDC who might be willing to serve as designee.
Okay,
No.
we can bring it to the next meeting.
We also have a past select board member who wants to be a designee, don't we?
Pardon? I don't know if Anita does or not.
I thought she might want to.
She
She's
might-
going to continue to participate anyway, so maybe we could ask her too.
Yeah.
We can put that out there.
Yeah.
Okay,
The one
thank you, Chris.
other
That's it.
thing that is not on this list, but Sue Thomas reminded me today, I think you've talked about at previous meetings, should the select board have a designee on clean energy or not? So I had asked for that to come up when they're presenting the roadmap and you're voting on that at the next meeting, if that's appropriate or not. So I did not add that to the list this evening.
Just as FYI, so the Town Center Parking and Traffic Study Committee is no more.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yep.
The select board policy one?
And the select board policy, I don't think,
We haven't had that in a
we
while.
haven't had that for many years.
Okay.
Maybe we need it.
I was looking at all the policies and they're very dated, and so that's one of my goals is to kind of get those put in order and then perhaps revisit
Well,
that with you
then
in the
maybe when you
future.
do, you can come back and talk
Yep,
to us.
exactly.
I think there's some conflict in some of them, just
But-
when they happen
But
and why they happen.
it makes maybe sense just to, if, when that gets, when you do that, to come back to
Yep,
us. And I guess the
absolutely.
other question I have, and Diane, you might know the answer to this, does the bylaw review committee still exist?
Wait, I'm on that.
Oh, Patty can answer that, never mind.
However, we haven't met in many years. And the last thing was the plastic bags. And things just haven't been, Dan says, Patty, let's put them here. Or Jody, and they go, yeah, that looks good, and that's what we do. And that's basically what's happened.
But we probably should just keep it there.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
That's what, it was a town meeting thing.
Right,
so-
okay.
We had a water bylaw review once.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yes, we did.
Just on the clean energy, because I know people have thought about it a little, I've heard a couple of comments. So in addition to them making a recommendation about whether or not a liaison would be valuable, we're also going to ask them to come forward with a couple priorities that can help guide Sue's areas of focus, what she's reporting back to us on what frequency. So we are going to have that conversation either in the next select board meeting or the one after that. Okay. I think we're in good shape. Yep.
Is the Lowell Regional Transit Authority, do you, usually, my opinion is like, it's usually a staff delegate, so it's never been
Yeah,
a select
I mean,
board, right?
I don't
Okay.
think a select board.
And the Tax Possession Sale Committee?
There's only one guy on that right now that I know of.
Okay.
One
Is that
person.
you?
No, a friend of mine is.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
What happened to the other people?
Well, that's what he said. I mean, he told me. He's a good friend of mine.
Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's been on it for years.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had any business left. We have a lot of
No,
possession.
Don.
Every
No,
once in a,
Don-
every
Don-
once in a while, something
It's
comes
Don
up.
Costley.
Right.
Don's the guy that I think is by himself. I don't know.
All right, we'll look into those.
Yeah, I don't think we need a standing liaison,
Yeah.
at least now.
Yep.
I don't know that this board has ever had a liaison to the tax sale.
No.
Okay.
In fact,
Yep.
I don't think we have.
Okay. And then Parks and Recreation never had a select board. We just have Chris's name there, so that will come out as well.
Well, I'll still be on the
You'll
committee.
still be on that, but you will not be the select board's
Exactly. We don't need
liaison.
a select board liaison,
Yep,
no.
got it, okay.
Okay. I think we're in good shape. Any other comments or questions on that? Okay, next up, request to approve 2023 annual reappointments for committee and board members as listed in the meeting packet. There is a large list of folks. Thank you for volunteering. I don't know if we want to put that up there just for a sec.
I have a question.
Yep.
Or I have two questions. My first question is, the beginning of the accountant, the assistant town accountant, assessor, assistant town clerk, parking clerk, we've never, we don't do that. We've never approved those.
No.
That's my
I see
question. I
that
had a big
too.
question mark here, like what? I mean,
Yeah.
these are filled positions.
Yeah,
So we don't need to,
no.
we don't need to approve this,
No.
okay?
We need to reappoint Patty? No.
No.
Yeah, I don't know why the staff had that on there.
So I think those top ones
you
before the
It's-
Affordable Housing Trust.
It
should come
sounds
out
like
there.
it just a list went through and everything was put down. I
Got
don't
it,
know
okay.
how to do this.
So let's,
My second question is, wait a minute.
yep.
For all of these other committees who are seeking, have we reached out to these folks? Do they want to be reappointed?
I think that's the process in the clerk's office, that they do reach out, yes.
Okay, I
Marilyn
just
has done that, and
all
they
right.
have responded in the positive.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, okay?
I think that's what happened here. You know, we get notices like me as town clerk. Do you want to continue as the town clerk? Okay. You know, we all get the same things, whether you're appointed by the town manager or a select board. And I think this is just a complete list without those taken out. So.
So
needs
just for
to be-
clarity, can we go back up, Eric, and just, I guess, talk about what we're gonna exclude? Because we'll take on a vote on this all at once, I think.
Everything above Affordable Housing Trust.
Everything,
Well, Conservation Commission isn't something that we appoint, I didn't think.
Yes,
Yeah, we
do.
do.
Do we really? I thought that was an
Yes, we
elected
do.
position.
No.
Okay.
No,
That they recommend to us, and then we
they
appoint.
recommend that we
Yeah.
appoint.
All right.
It's a tough one to get on.
okay. So, any other questions? We're only gonna consider items that are affordable housing and below. Any other questions amongst that list before we consider a vote?
Are we appointing people just for 1 year?
No.
No.
The term is on the far right-hand side, so the
But-
terms vary.
Like, Communications Advisory Committee, Robert Jeffries till 6/30/2024 for 1 year? I mean, these are supposed to be that, if we appoint them, they'll serve until that time, correct?
Correct.
Right. They've,
Well, some of them are just
it sounds
1
like
year or
there's
2
been a
years.
discussion with them, and this is what they've agreed to do.
Well,
No, there's the specific term that they follow out on, so in each charter or each charge for the committee, there's certain term limits
Right.
for each position.
Yeah.
So some are 1-year terms, some are 2-year terms, some are
So
3-year terms.
if I was looking at Robert Jeffries, for example,
Yep.
it says appoint him, and it says 6/30/2024. Is that when his current term expires and we appoint him?
His current term is expiring
now,
June 30th,
it's a 1-year term,
2023,
right?
so it's a
One-year
1-year
appointment.
Oh,
term.
is it?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I thought normally there were 3.
Some are 3, some are 5, some are 1.
some are 2.
It's always great to see this list, because it reminds us how lucky we are, how wealthy we are in town volunteers.
Yeah.
So thank you to all of the folks who are willing to serve.
I think they're all good choices. I mean, all familiar names, everybody's,
Any other comments or questions about any of the folks from Affordable Housing Trust down? Okay,
I'll move to reappoint all of the people as listed on our 2023 recommendations for reappointment as appearing in our packet tonight on May 23rd.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Next up, request to submit an application to the Vulnerable Road User Program, Mass DOT passing signs grant application. And Chris, this is where you get to like run around, put a new hat on, come back in to present?
I think we actually have the new chair of the Pedestrian Safety Committee
Okay, excellent.
here this evening, who's willing to step up and do the presentation. It's Tom.
Great, welcome.
Hi, welcome.
We usually ask you to state your name and your address when you come and join. Thanks.
All right, can do. Tom Hinkle, 10 Maple Road.
Thanks, welcome.
Thanks. So, and I think, I didn't send you any documents, but I think you may have a memo from Steve Cronin in your
Right.
Yes.
documents.
We
Okay,
do
great.
with an exhibit showing the
the roads.
Sign design. And, yeah.
So, a little context, on April 1st, the law to protect vulnerable road users went into effect in Massachusetts. The part that's relevant to us now is the part that said that motorists must give vulnerable road users 4 feet of passing distance. Steve Cronin's memo mentions bicyclists, but I think it's worth pointing out that law is designed for pedestrians, people in wheelchairs, any kind of mobility device, basically anyone not in a 3,000-pound steel cage who is using our roads. So farm equipment, horse rack riders, all of those sorts of people. So the kind of the main thing the law does is provides awareness that motorists are supposed to give 4 feet. That awareness is supposed to come through signs. So to me, the signs are sort of the point, that since the law is mainly educational, we would like to educate motorists. MassDOT is required to put up signage across the Commonwealth and work in collaboration with municipalities to put signs on public roadways. So this memorandum is the Safe Passing Signs Memorandum of Agreement, is MassDOT saying they will provide signs if towns agree to provide the labor, materials, and equipment to install the signs within 90 days of delivery. So Pedestrian Safety Committee thought it made sense to put up the signs informing motorists that this new law exists. Our DPW had some concerns. Their initial concerns were, I think there's a general fear of like putting up signs, too many signs won't get read, and there's a concern about over signage. They were also concerned initially about if we put up signs in some places and not others, will we face a liability concern about how we choose where to put the signs without a study to say where they should go. So the Pedestrian Safety Committee knew the town has to act fast. We have to request the signs by June 1st to get them, so we certainly don't have time for a study of each roadway, and proposed the kind of compromise to say, let's put towns at all the, or signs at the roads that are entering into the town. So that was the proposal. Those signs do happen to be pretty heavily trafficked, so lots of people coming in, and certainly on many of those roads, lots of use by pedestrians, cyclists, and other vulnerable road users. So Steve Cronin laid out the list of roads, which is almost all the roads coming into town. There's a few little roads like Kai's isn't on there, but it includes all the numbered roads except for MassDOT is responsible for signs on 110, so that kind of jumps out as a missing road on the list. But 40, 225, 27, and then as you go down, Maine, Nebnasset, as you go south, Powers, and anyway, he's got the full list of roads. So our recommendation is, I guess the town has to agree to this memorandum of agreement in order to get the signs from MassDOT. Our DPW says they can get the signs up within 90 days. So we would recommend that the select board go ahead and, I don't know what you all have to do, approve, sign, say yes to the signs so we can get the signs up.
Great, thanks, Tom. Any questions for Tom?
Yeah.
John, go ahead.
You go. Oh, you have any idea about how many we're talking about?
I think it's 18.
18. Who knew we had 18 roads coming into town?
Now, how many signs?
18.
Sorry, it's
18
18 signs. So we have, if you included 110, we'd be at 20 signs, and if you include Kai's and a few others, we'd be at 21 or 22. But yeah, 18's the list. I got interested in how many roads came into town, so.
Yes, if we think about it,
18 roads coming into.
Yeah, but I was talking about number of signs.
18.
One on each.
Okay,
18.
one on each.
Yeah.
One, so like Route 40, there's one on Chelmsford side, one on the Groton side.
Okay, well, that's
225, there's one on the,
Okay,
what
I
is
was
that?
thinking it was gonna be a lot
Carlisle
more than
Acton.
that.
Is it Groton still? Yeah, I was like, is that A or Groton? What do you go
Groton
to
is
first,
next.
Groton?
Two different
Yeah.
sizes, depending on the
Andrea.
size.
So I
And one
have
on the
two
Carlisle side.
questions, or maybe one with two. Do we know what these signs are going to look like, and how big are they, and,
We should
Yep,
put
it's
them
in the memo, so we can pull that up on the screen for you.
and what color they're going to be? Like, I hope,
Yellow?
I hope they're not the neon green.
Are they yellow or white? This is
That's
this
a good
Steve's
question.
memo.
I
That's a
think-
good
I think it's
question.
yellow,
Let's
but,
see.
The specs show
Black on
clear,
white.
but
It says black on white.
Black on
Okay.
black
white.
on white, yeah.
Black on white.
Yeah, two different sizes too.
correct.
Look at that.
Why are,
So the smaller size is for under 35 miles an hour roadway, and the larger size is over 35 miles an hour.
Okay.
So that's why Steve, in his memo, gave you the speed limit on the roadway
I
as
guess
well.
Okay.
I
Thank you, Steve.
I missed that page in the memo. I guess I didn't scroll down far enough. I missed that page.
It was easy.
Oh,
Any
oh, wait, Patty doesn't have it either, so I not.
don't.
Oh,
Okay.
I think, are you looking at the memorandum of
Two different
agreement?
things, yeah.
Yeah, this is a memorandum of agreement.
Oh, that's in the MOA.
Yeah, it's right on the tail end of that.
Oh, well, like, I didn't read the whole.
I'm glad we brought it up, because I think a lot of people want to know what the signs look like, so.
Right. Okay,
Any other
thank you.
any other questions or comments about this? Okay, so I think what we're looking for is a motion to approve submittal of the application to the Vulnerable Road User Program.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, recommend the appointment of Brian Hardigan to the Pedestrian Safety Committee. Tom, you're the requester for that.
I can also speak to this. Do you want to go first? Or?
Sure, I'm happy to address. So we actually have a full committee, so which is amazing. So we put this up a little bit in advance of knowing that, because we were excited. He had come to our meeting the other day, and we wanted to get him on board. So we have a little work internally to talk with the school committee and the planning board, because they owe us liaisons, and to see who those folks will be, particularly with the school committee. And potentially, if they feel they don't have anybody who would be interested, maybe coming back to us and saying, could we change the makeup of the committee to allow this resident to participate as a full member? I think in the meantime, we'll ask him to continue to participate as, just a member of the public, so he stays involved until we can get him onto the committee.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions?
We have to thank Krista find him for us. She recruited him, so she gets a finder's fee.
Hey.
That's right.
Well, that's great. Okay, I will entertain a motion to appoint Brian Hardigan to the Pedestrian Safety Committee.
No, we're going to
We're
hold
not
on.
doing that.
We're not doing
We have to wait
We
until
have to wait.
Okay, got it. Then we will not do that. Absolutely not gonna do that. Okay, that brings us to the 8:15 item, which is board reports and updates. Any of those tonight? Okay, 8:20 is minutes for approval.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
I think I'm abstaining.
You're right.
Very good. And
Wait, were you here for May 6th?
yes.
Yes.
Was
You
I
were here
there?
for May 6th.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So I will
So you're-
vote in the.
You're going to
Actually,
abstain for
I'm
March
sorry, that's a
20th.
typo. I apologize. That should be March 6th.
March 6th.
All right, that's what I
Well, I
thought.
thought it was March 6th, yeah.
Okay.
When I was writing, I read it on my.
So Chris is abstaining from March.
Yes.
Okay. 8:25 Town Manager's Report. Kristen.
Sure, thank you. I wanted to give everyone an update on question 3, the Indigenous Peoples Day recount, and Patty, please fill me in where I might misstep. So there were petitions filed by every precinct to recount that ballot question. The original vote was it 14 votes different? 15 votes different. So there's that petition. That recount will be occurring tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the library. And there's a whole procedure that we follow for state recounts. Patty has recruited certain town clerks or assistant town clerks to help with that. There'll be registrars and whatnot there. So anyone's welcome. It's a public event to occur. Do you want to add anything that I might be missing?
I think you've covered just about everything.
Town council's going to be there too, right?
Yes.
Man, I hope so. No, yes, she's there.
Any questions on that recount? So we'll certainly let the board know and put it out to the public as soon as the official results are in. All right, the next update I have is on the draft firearms zoning bylaw. So it's been out in the public since last Friday that the planning board and the land use department has placed the legal ad for the draft firearms zoning bylaw. The first public hearing will be on June 5th at 7 p.m. as part of the planning board meeting, which is currently scheduled for this room. If we get a feeling that there'll be a huge crowd, we may be looking at moving the meeting, but right now we're sticking to this room. Just wanted to let the board members know and the members of the public know that the draft bylaw is on the planning board's webpage. So if you go there, and the legal ad's posted there as well. And I know the land use department has been having various meetings with people for and against the bylaw and coming to some consensus and information. So that's where we're at now. Just as a reminder, the next special town meeting is scheduled for mid-October. So we're tracking having this bylaw change being on that meeting unless something else comes up that makes that change. But we encourage members of the public to review the draft bylaw online, attend the public hearings. There will definitely be 2, 3, or 4 public hearings. It will not just be June 5th and over. So if you can't make June 5th or you just want to watch and observe, there will be at least 2, if not 3 or 4 public hearings coming up after that for input.
I know a number of members of the public have wanted to stay current on this issue and make sure they had all the latest, the latest wording, latest information. So if you Google Westford Mass Planning Board, on the left part of the masthead at the bottom is a special section just on this topic. You can click on it. All the information's there. You can click through to all the documents that are currently out there for this. So very well done by the planning board, having all that information in one place that way. So we'll continue to direct people to that location who are interested in tracking what's going on.
Any questions related to that? All right, we'll move on. The next item C is a request to approve a letter of support from the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments community application for Community One Stop for Growth for a regional housing strategy. They have requested that all of the communities within the NIMCOG region sign on a letter of support so we can study housing needs within our region at this time. Those grant applications are due the beginning of June, so we would request that the board consider this evening.
Any questions for Kristen or discussion on that? Okay, sounds like you'd like a.
So do you want a motion
like a vote?
to?
Motion to authorize the town manager to sign the letter of support.
Second.
All those in favor?
And then we'll get into grants, contracts, and purchase orders. So the town of Westford received a grant from Northern Middlesex Council of Governments for 36 hours of staff time, technical assistance to evaluate the compliance and calculate projected unit counts in the proposed districts utilizing special permit compliance model. That is for $3,400 as requested by land use. I don't know if you want me to go through everything we take it all at once, or do grants first, then contracts, then purchase orders?
Why don't we go through them all, and if people have questions, let's stop and tag those
Sure.
at the time.
All right. The next item is the contract section. So a contract with RICOH for digital imaging for $23,340. This is ARPA funding to authorize the assessor's office to begin their document scanning. Kyocera for a 3-year contract for the library public photocopier. AAA laser office supplies for printer supplies and repair services for the technology department. ALS interceptor agreement with Groton as requested by the fire department. So that is for ambulance services across town boundaries. The next section is purchase orders. Verizon Wireless for cellular charges in the amount of $49,100. Verizon for voice data lines in the amount of $39,500. Zoom for virtual meetings in the amount of $13,828.50. TriTech for IMC systems and for the technology department. Sodaface antivirus for the technology department, and 2 more on the back. Patriot Properties for the technology department at $12,180, and then the last one is the McGovern Municipal for the 2023 Chevy Tahoe. We discussed this at the last meeting where there was 3 vehicles and there was questions of why were we purchasing a Tahoe. The chief was able to provide a memo at after the last meeting that I did provide to you that said that this was based upon the fiscal 23 budget, and throughout the process and course they needed to replace that Tahoe for the purposes of police sergeant.
Yep, Scott?
Forgive me, but should there be a dollar value on purchase order number 4?
Purchase order number 4. Yes, there should be, and I can pull it up here. That is the TriTech, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yep, TriTech for IMC.
It's unlimited.
It's everything.
IMC is $22,964.61. I apologize. apologize, that was in the packet but didn't make it on the agenda.
No problem. Any questions on grants, contracts, or purchase orders for Kristen this evening? There being none, I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
So, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Move to waive reading of correspondence?
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? And would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?